when they reopen in the fall. And the mayor of New York City is warning tonight that vaccine mandates for indoor dining might be needed to get more people vaccinated. And there's this new projection tonight. Researchers expect COVID cases to peak again in October. That led the federal government today to order 200 million more doses of the Pfizer vaccine. Scientists say that shot is nearly 90% effective against the highly contagious Delta variant. We have a lot to get to, and CBS's Lilia Luciano is going to lead us off from Las Vegas. Good evening, Lilia.
Good evening to you, Nora. More than 1,000 people are now hospitalized here in Nevada for the first time in more than 5 months. That's why state officials are calling on federal agencies to help increase vaccinations and stop the spread.
Tonight, Vegas is back in business. Tourists packing the strip. Concerts, big celebrations, and big trouble. Nevada is now one of the country's biggest COVID hotspots, along with 4 other states. Nevada's positive rate, which measures community spread, has been on the rise 9 consecutive days. Well, Clark County now requires masks for employees.
It definitely gives me a sense of safety.
There are no mandates for anyone else. Almost no masks indoors.
Why not a mask mandate for the tourists?
So right now, we just implemented the mask mandate for the employees. So that's the focus. We're not considering a mask mandate for customers or guests right now. We're going to follow the data.
As COVID surges across the country, mask requirements and recommendations are making a comeback too. St. Louis is the latest city to reinstate a mandate beginning Monday. Meanwhile, just 40% of eligible Alabama residents are fully vaccinated, meaning 60% are not as cases climb. And the state's Republican governor had some harsh words.
Folks supposed to have common sense. But it's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks. It's the unvaccinated folks that are letting us down.
But a newly released poll from the Associated Press, which surveyed unvaccinated Americans, found 80% were either definitely not or probably not willing to get the shot. Nevada has now brought in FEMA, the agency that typically responds to natural disasters, to help set up clinics in hard-to-reach areas where vaccine rates are low.
We're trying to reach as much people as we can and make it accessible for them to get the vaccine. That's what we try to improve those rates so we can save lives.
Some of those workers going door to door tell me they're still encountering people who are hesitant because they don't trust the vaccine, and others say that it's just inconvenient for them to do so, and that's why it's so important to take both the information and the shots to their communities. Nora?
Lilia Luciano, thank you. And the 32nd Summer Olympics are officially underway in Tokyo tonight amid a worsening COVID emergency. And like many things in this pandemic, it was an unprecedented opening ceremony. CBS's Jamie Yukas is in Tokyo.
Inside the Olympic Stadium, the stands were mostly empty, a unique scene of pageantry amid a pandemic. Japanese tennis star Naomi Osaka lit the cauldron to officially start the games. But COVID restrictions kept away all but 900 VIPs and guests, compared to the more than 80,000 who filled stadiums in Rio, London, and Beijing. And there was new controversy as organizers said a test kit shortage inside the Olympic Village earlier this week briefly complicated efforts to keep COVID out. This came as 19 new cases popped up, bringing total infections to more than 100. About 100 of the 613 U.S. athletes are not vaccinated. Outside the stadium, protesters demanded the games be canceled as Japan suffers through its highest daily case count since January. Dr. Kenji Shibuya has helped direct Japan's vaccine rollout.
How do you think this Olympics is going to be received?
It is supposed to be a symbol of peace, unity, and according to the Prime Minister, the victory of the COVID pandemic. But currently it's totally opposite.
Still, the athletes powered on. Eddie Alvarez of USA Baseball and Sue Bird of USA Basketball led the U.S. delegation.
I would have been there, no question.
Bird's mother, Nancy, had to watch from her New York home because of the tight COVID restrictions.
Even though I'd like to be there to hug her, it doesn't take anything away. It's still a wonderful, proud moment.
The games will now shift into full gear. U.S. soccer will try to make a comeback in its game against New Zealand. Simone Biles and the women's gymnastics team compete Sunday. Nora? Jamie Yukas, thanks so much. Well, tonight, a Trump ally who once ran the former president's inaugural committee is set to be released from jail on a $250 million bond, including $5 million in cash. Tom Barrack will be arraigned on Monday on charges of illegally lobbying on behalf of the United Arab Emirates. He's required to wear a GPS tracking ankle bracelet, and his travel is restricted. Tonight, 12 firefighting aircraft have joined the battle against those explosive wildfires in California. One is now officially a mega fire. And in Oregon, a COVID outbreak is complicating efforts to put out the largest fire in the country. Here's CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti.
In California and Nevada, firefighters drive through flames to protect those in the path of the erratic Tamarack wildfire.
The extreme fire behavior meant that it was definitely going to be a difficult time, and in some cases a real firefight.
The blaze now covers 58,000 acres after crossing state lines and forcing residents like Ed Hill to flee.
There's a mountain right behind my house, and the fire was coming right down.
This is the charred aftermath of the Dixie Fire near the town of Paradise, California. The mega fire sparked more evacuations today and has burned more than 140,000 acres. And in Oregon, firefighters are combating both the nation's largest wildfire and a COVID outbreak after 9 firefighters tested positive for the virus. These fires are also now creating their own weather systems, like so-called firenadoes. And experts say because of climate change, we can expect more of this unpredictable behavior for years to come. Jonathan Vigliotti, CBS News.
From fires to floods in Arizona tonight, a 4-year-old girl is missing after her family's car was swept away by rising waters. Surveillance video shows multiple cars being washed away after a powerful monsoon drenched Phoenix and Scottsdale last night. The storm did bring some relief to the state's severe drought. We're going to turn now to that CDC warning of an outbreak of a superbug fungus attacking people here in D.C. and in Texas. And to make it worse, the fungus is tough to treat. We get more on this from CBS's Omar Villafranca.
Tonight, the CDC is keeping tabs on more cases of a drug-resistant fungus that is spread in healthcare settings. It's called Candida auris. 2 new clusters of the superbug were reported by the CDC. 22 cases were in 2 Dallas area hospitals, leaving 2 people dead. 101 cases were reported at a Washington, D.C. area nursing home, killing 1 person. Dr. Floyd Wormley of Texas Christian University has studied the fungus and those most at risk.
So if you are in a hospital, you have a severely weakened immune system, and you are undergoing certain treatments or therapies in which this organism can gain access into your body, then it can cause issues.
The CDC's Dr. Megan Lyman says patients being treated for COVID are vulnerable.
There's a lot of patients that had COVID who acquired Candida auris, and in general, Candida auris is more likely among patients who are at long-term care facilities, who are chronically very sick, have invasive devices like tracheostomies, or are on a ventilator.
Researchers have found that the fungus can not only be contracted from surfaces, but can also be spread person to person, which is what appears to have happened in these recent cases. Dr. Wormley is part of a team that's working with the National Institutes of Health to fight the superbug, and he thinks there's potential for an effective treatment in 2 to 3 years. Nora?
Omar Villafranca, thank you. It was an emotional scene today at the site of that collapsed condo building in Surfside, Florida. As a month of painstaking recovery work came to a close, crew members hugged after the site was finally cleared of rubble. 97 people are confirmed dead. 1 woman is still missing. Her family still awaiting word. The search for remains will continue off-site. And a warning now for summer travelers. If you're in a rush for a new passport, you may be out of luck. Scammers forced the State Department to shut down its online bookings for urgent appointments. And CBS's Meg Oliver has the details.
Tonight, long lines at U.S. passport offices as travelers rush to get their passports after the State Department temporarily shut down the agency's emergency appointment booking site.
This is my one and only chance. My flight's in 2 days.
The State Department says third-party actors are using bots to book all available online appointments. Some are selling them for as high as $3,000 to applicants with urgent travel needs.
I am freaking out.
Kelsey and Heston Rankin applied for passports in May, but only 1 has arrived. Their non-refundable flight to Mexico leaves in 2 weeks.
I call every day to try and get an answer to get the same runaround that, oh, we can only push it a week before your travel. A week before your travel is kind of cutting it very close.
In the last 2 years, the couple suffered the heartbreaking loss of a stillborn and 2 miscarriages.
We just need to get a break, get a mental reset, celebrate our anniversary.
The State Department admits they have a staffing issue and they're scrambling to complete an extraordinary backlog of passport applications. The current wait time for a passport is up to 18 weeks.
During the pandemic, they sent their people home. And right now we're over 1.6 million passports in backlog that they can't process.
How much will you lose if your passport doesn't arrive on time?
A little over $3,000.
Kelsey says her passport is expected to arrive the day before her flight. Appointments are extremely limited at offices like here in New York, but they are trying to prioritize for life or death emergencies. Nora?
Meg Oliver, thank you. Well, tonight General Motors is issuing its second recall in less than a year for tens of thousands of Chevy Bolt electric cars.